Oh, all right. Oh. Welcome. I'm not too happy with myself, I have to say. I wanted to wrap up all the practice takes before we did this. What I've been doing is sort of, doing a recap of the week and then recording the practice takes. So, when I sit down with you, I'm doing my best for it to be, so, now it's week 13, that we push into now week 13 and we see how we go that week. And then when I jump into the next week, sort of reflect on how things are going, and then jump into the next week. So, and for me, it's, I want to encapsulate everything, have all the recordings done. Now I was just working on Tears in Heaven, the studio version, and then jumped into Broken Heart, the studio version. And I was expecting it to be, smooth sails and just sort of, do my best to translate with you how that's been going. But it didn't really turn out that way. I did 3 takes, and I got increasing a little bit better, but it was just horrible. I was not happy with it, yeah. So it's I just have to do it tomorrow. I don't think it's a practice thing or anything like that. The acoustic is a much better place, but it's not vibing with me at all today. So I think we're just gonna have to do it tomorrow. That pisses me off, I have to say, because I want to start fresh tomorrow, and I don't like that. I want to start fresh, new sort of new chapter tomorrow, and we'll start working on week 13. But then that's all right. We still have a few other recordings to wrap up. How have we been going? Okay, yeah. I'm not too happy with myself, I have to say. I feel that I've been very unfocused. There's been a lot of external things, and you don't sound like I'm crazy, but the space that we live in it's very noisy. And it's just cars up and down, people walking up and down, and I get it, people have their own lives, and when it's a weekend and stuff like that. But it's like, geez, it's almost like 7 o'clock, and it's just cars up and down. It's like, oh my God, let me take a break. Particularly to my ears, it becomes so sensitive, and all the noise around me. I can't really turn it off. Because I listen and work on music so much that my ears sort of become just default standard sort of bad ears. And I think a big part of that has been just a lack of focus. Outside of what anything else is happening, there's a lot of noise around us. And a big part of that has just been a lack of focus. And I haven't been this unfocused in a while. I've let too many external things and also stuff around me affect me way too much. And I frankly become just exhausted from everything. It's just been go since the start of the year and the year before, that I'm really getting to a point where I'm just sort of getting fed up with everything. Because the amount of sacrifices I have to make on a daily basis and everything else. It's frustrating when you are working on art, when you are working on something that challenges you deeply, that you don't really have a space where you can work in peace, or go somewhere and then just have no one in your surroundings for 10 miles. And then a big factor in that is because of the finances of me, having to make the sacrifice to invest that into other stuff for the longer term gain. The amount I spend on rent and stuff like that, just to go somewhere that's quiet. I could spend that on very important things that could help me in the long-term future. So I feel a bit trapped. I feel that I am ready to travel, to tour, to share with you the project. But at the same time, I know it's not ready, because I just did one of the takes and I'm not happy with it. Broken Heart still needs, that studio version particularly needs work. Now the acoustic version is getting better, and thankfully, I'll be performing that one as a live thing. But in terms of studio recording, I'm still not happy with that. I think that in terms of the live performance, I think that will make our target, because it'll be live instrumentation, more so than studio version performances. And in that regard, I think that we're gonna get that done. But it's gonna take every ounce of my being to get it done, because I'm not in a good space, to the point where I've just decided I need to take a few days off. I had already booked some time, just a couple days, but I just need to get away. I think this place is just I don't think it's anything to do with the place, but it could be anywhere. But I'm just going batshit crazy, just sitting here and work. I think it'll be better if it wasn't so chaotic, and I didn't have screaming dogs at 5 o'clock in the morning, start waking me up. The other day it was really bad. I couldn't fall asleep. I was working till about, I think it was about 1:32 a.m. And then I just pushed a bit too far, and I just couldn't fall asleep. I was just wandering around, and it was really bad. Yes, and particularly since the start of the year, I've had some really just dark, really low lows. I've had some great highs, but I've had a lot of lows. And I've gotten to a point where I need a few days just to sleep and reset. Because I'm just getting to a point where I'm not meeting my targets. I'm not meeting what I need to get done. And I have to push it to a point where I just feel incredibly unwell, and then I can't calm down. I can't fall asleep. Now, I'm not sure how relatable this is to many of you out there, but when you're working so much on something, you love something so much, and you're obsessed with something, you're grinding and putting in the work, you get to a point where everything just becomes numb, and you can't fall asleep. Or your brain just so overstimulated by everything that it's very difficult to just take a breath, take a second to and sleep. I think the worst part of it is when you don't sleep. That's the worst part. When you can't, when you sleep a little bit, then you can sort of work with it. When you don't sleep at all, it's fucking brutal. And it's just being counterproductive. The way I'm sort of looking at things is I have probably a few more months of the practice takes, and then we're going to jump into rehearsals once we finish up the Search for Natural Happiness. Then I'll jump into rehearsals, and then I'll be putting things together. But I don't know how I'm gonna I'm gonna see it through, but I'm just gonna have to get really hyper focused. So I'm gonna be working up until about Wednesday, and then I'm gonna take some time, a few days, just to get out of the city, and I'm going to, and during that break, I'm gonna just take some time for myself and just really figure out what our priorities are and get hyper focused on them and set clear deadlines of when we need to get shit done. Yeah, because I mean, I can't control everything around me and planes and all this other stuff. And sure, it's annoying, it's a nuisance, and it's incredibly disrespectful and not at all kind to other people who live here. But there's not much you can do, right? You just sort of have to deal with it. It's the space we're in. When we used to live here, it wasn't that bad. Now it's going really bad here, and it's not really a place for prosperity and then conducive workflow. And compared to the amount of hours that I put in, when I go to bed, I really need some peace and quiet. And then if I go to bed at 2-3 a.m. and if I sleep until 9-ish or something like that, I really can't be woken up in between. I can't turn my room into a bunker. But it is what it is, right? So I was gonna have to adjust that, and as much as I don't like it, I'm gonna have to, switch it around. I think I've just been going to bed way too late, and I think that it's just really starting to affect me. I think we need to start getting up earlier, 7, 8. What's really helped me over the past few days is getting out. Cool. And I just plug this in just in case. What's really helped is just getting out. I know it sounds like duh, but me good? Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's just since sort of the start of this year, it's just I've been, I guess, a bit depressed. I'm just sort of over everything. I think it's just because of that aspect of I'm sort of done. I sort of sacrificed everything for this, and it's taken a lot longer than I have the patience for. And I'm a very patient person, but yeah, it's interesting because I'm so close now to the end, but I'm so just agitated and impatient. We're closer than we've ever been. But yeah, I think it's just an accumulation of everything, and I really think that these next few months are really gonna be some of the toughest, or it's gonna feel like it's the toughest it's ever been. And I think that just to prepare ourselves, we just need to take a few days off and refocus. And I need to make a clear schedule of where things need to go and when I need to practice certain things. And I think that this most important thing is going to be making sure we get out in the morning. Because I work with technology, the rest of the day, and all the screens and everything. I think it's really important that I just get out, a little bit away from all the tech and phones and everything, and just step out for a second. Go to the gym. But it's interesting how the gym hasn't been as sort of relaxing and as a sort of place for me to get away, because there's so many screens and music's pumping, and it's very difficult not to look at the screens because there's so many of them. So it hasn't really been the most sort of relaxing space I thought it would be. But I find that just going out and go for a walk or a jog, or there's a forest nearby, like a local sort of what do they call it? National park. So just maybe go there. It's getting a bit colder, but screw it, whatever. Just put a jacket on and go for it. So I think that's been really helpful this past few days. So I'm just gonna think just making sure we do that. Because once I get back, it's at least a 2-hour rehearsal for an hour to 2 hours of rehearsal just for the DJ set before we jump in everything else. Before we jump into the practice takes, the piano, the drums, the guitars, and then everything else. So there's a lot to get done in one day, and I'm running out of steam. So I think that I'm gonna take some time now just to sort of I bring a journal and just write shit down and just really figure out, okay, how do we organize everything to be manageable over the next few months. Close to the end of the year, nearing the end of the year, and then sort of go from there. So I'm hoping that when I come back from that, it will be a lot more. Will be refreshed. I'll be able to really have a clear understanding of, okay, what we need to do, what's the clear focuses here, and just have a little more energy to push me to the sort of finishing line for the project. I still haven't really figured out how each individual parts are going to be connecting with everything, but I think that'll sort of just work itself out, or sort of write itself, if you will, once we get all the pieces together. I have about 7 or 8 additional pieces for Project Viminacium, or 6 or 7, something like that. So a couple more acoustics, and then some more spoken word elements, and a vocal acoustic. So we have a few more, but they're not as difficult as the ones I've shared with you. The ones I've shared with you, in particular Into and Physical, and the ones we started with, those have been the most difficult for the project. That's why I wanted to start with them and really hone in and focus on them before we did everything else. So I find that those are in a good place. The ones we started with, obviously, they're the strongest. But I find that a lot of other elements are coming along very well. The piano, the acoustics, etc. But it's just finding the right balance between practicing and then recording. Finding that space. And there's certain things that I just need to practice every day, and that's the most important, and then everything else. But it's been a struggle, and I don't like it. It's been a great struggle the past few weeks, especially. And I think the biggest part is that, for me, when I set a time I get up, I usually just get up. Or if I say to myself, I'm gonna do this, and 99% of the time I go and do it. That's just the kind of person I am. But going into this year, because I think the first few months were really, really bad, and it was really tough. The piano recordings and everything else around. So really tough beginning of the month, beginning of the year. This first 3 months, and I didn't really have any sort of break in between. I just had a couple of days over New Year's and went straight into the new year. So I didn't really have any sort of downtime around there. Just went straight into it. A couple of days here and there, but that's about it. Yeah, and it's surprising that I would set the timer for a certain time, and then just it's really difficult for me to get out of bed. I don't have the energy when I get up. I just feel like absolute garbage. Even the coffee and stuff that hasn't been helping as much, and water, and I do that. But I think it's just been a lack of exercise, and I need to really get that up. Um, yeah, I just feel that I don't have the same drive as we started. You know, that sort of my energy is just really low. I don't have that same enthusiasm and same just vigor for everything. I'm just sort of like, oh, whatever. Like if you wanna if you wanna work. Like it's like kind of sort of like that. Um, which is not good. Which is not good. It's not conducive to getting the best guess possible sort of takes from what you need. Um, yeah, so that's sort of where we're at. Uh, yeah. Um, I think in terms of how the takes went for week 12, most we almost finished with them, and they were quite good and very happy. And some of the best takes we've done so far for the project. So that's been really good. Uh, they weren't as difficult to do as week 11, I have to say. And because when I did the recordings for week 11 in acoustics, it was really bad. It got really bad. I was so worn out. I mean, I found a way to sort of kick back, and that's been good. But I think again, it's just the sleeping. Sleeping's been horrible. I just can't seem to allow myself to rest. I think that's sort of warped in my mind that I need to sort of suffer, because otherwise, you won't value me as much, or you'll think they maybe just been given to me, which is just absolute bonkers. But I think I've warped myself into that sort of space, and I just need to find a way to get out of that because it's not sustainable. I think that through all the recordings and takes I've done, I've sort of given you a clear indication that it's hard work and dedication that sees this through more so than anything else. None of this was given to me. I might be talented in certain areas more than others, but it's talent only gets you so far. It gets to a point of skill, and you can see how many times when you do certain takes, and how much we continue practicing. This isn't for the faint-hearted. It's very much for the obsessed. And I wouldn't really recommend it. And this is what music and musicians' life is about. It isn't about all the other stuff you see. This is the bulk of it, right? You're practicing this, you're practicing that. It's music. That's my life. That's what I love doing. That's what I'm dedicating my life to. And for some that might be a bit strange, but it's what I'm good at. It's what I love, and it's what keeps me excited about life. Because for me, everything else is boring, and this is what keeps me. This is what gets me out of bed. In most cases. But I think that because we've had so many obstacles and so many hurdles, so many challenges to face over the years, that I'm getting to a point where I'm starting to wear thin from everything. I just want positivity in my life. I want more positivity. I want the grinding and the suffering to be over. I want I want everything to be where I want it to be. I want to get up tomorrow and for it to be there. From all the acoustics and everything to be done, to the piano to be ready, to the drums to be ready. I just want it to be all ready. I want to get up tomorrow and therefore to be ready, and then we can just perform. But I know that's not going to happen unless I put in the work. It will happen at one point, but we need to put a tremendous amount of work into it before then. And I feel that we're very close, or closer than we've ever been. But I haven't been this unfocused and unmotivated in a long, long time. Yeah. And I think a big part of that is you when you're working on something, when starting out, there's a lot of naysayers, right? And there's a lot of noise, there's a lot of anger, and there's a lot of this and that, and a lot of people don't believe in you, and you're fighting and fighting for years and years and years and years and years and years, and you really have to sustain that. Then you get to a certain point that we are now, when you start experiencing a little bit of success, and you start getting a lot more support around you, and it can feel a bit, you can sort of pump the brakes a little bit, right? Almost, you can sort of lose that same hunger, if you will, because you're not trying to prove a point or something like that. And I like being in a space where I don't have to be angry all the time. I don't like being in a space when I'm doing it for the wrong reasons. And I mentioned this in another of the sort of introspections and confessions of an artist, that I really want to do it from a space of love. And when I work, I want to do it in a space of love. I don't want to do it in a space of I'm gonna show you. Because what's the point? I mean, there's enough anger in the world today, and there's so much nonsense, and so many negativity and just horrid things, that we need a lot more love, and particularly towards each other. It might seem like a goofy sort of but it's true. Outside of sort of egotism and I'm better than you and all this other crap, it's not going to get you anywhere in life. And I noticed that a lot of people are very much so arrogant, or feel so entitled that you can't get through them. It's just a brick wall. And I feel that if you're in that space, it's very difficult to learn anything new. But I find that it's particularly interesting in DJing sphere, in music as well. There's so much arrogance, so much egotism. It's like, oh my God, like, jeez, calm down, calm down. It's doesn't feel like a support network. It feels like very much sort of judgmental sort of network. How you can sort of up someone else or some X, Y, Z. And I think that's if you're that kind of person, it's a great space to start creating music, because you can really create something new in that space. But if you're just sort of there, just being a bully to everyone else, it's not really conducive to anything positive. It's not really contributing anything. And I think that particularly in any area, whether it's mixing or instrumental or vocalization, it requires a great amount of work, and it requires you to be very open in yourself and not be arrogant and overconfident. It's really about having determination and getting better. Yeah, I mean, I think it's quite prevalent in DJ and mixing, because it's quite easy to the learning curve for DJing per se isn't very high, and you can become quite famous by having a bunch of other people write the music for you, and you just sort of going from one song to another song, and maybe you mix in a couple this or that, blah blah blah, and do most on the computer and just go from one song to another, and you can relatively squeeze by, and and if particularly if you become quite successful in that commercial space, etc., you can fall into a good living, a good amount of money. And again, I don't see anything wrong with the commercial space and doing all that. I think it's always going to be there. It's not like it's going to go away. There's always going to be more entertainers than DJs and mixers, etc. But I don't think it's really conducive to be arrogant or up yourself or whatever in wanting to progress. I think if you look at any of the athletes out there, particularly if it hasn't been easy for them, it's been quite a difficult road. It's more confidence, it's more determination rather than per se arrogance, because you constantly need to be willing to grow and push yourself. I think that if you're arrogant, then it's not really conducive to growing. Particularly now, and if we're moving into season 3 of art and mixing, you really need to be open-minded about things that are being shared. And I know it's quite alternative and quite a different perspective on things. But I noticed that particularly in the space of mixing music, composing music, it's very much a space of I know best. Or that's blah 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 because I do it better, right? And when you in that space, it's really not good, because you're not going to get very far. There's no room in your mind to grow. There's no space. You need to really be in the perspective of wanting to look at individual players in the game and take away notes, right? Because it's not really an aspect of if someone's better. It's just that someone's a different chapter than you are, and you want to find people that align with your style and your perspective on the music you want to mix, and really pinpoint some areas that you can work from that, and then see where you can sort of go with it. But in any area, if you want it, it's very easy to become stagnant, and the only way you can grow in that particular area is you need to be very open about growing, and have determination. But at the same time, you need to be willing to accept the input, right? Now, being an asshole, taking information from an asshole isn't going to help. But finding mentors and finding, and looking at tutorials and looking at people that you might admire and just maybe writing a few notes down and seeing where you can sort of progress with it is very helpful. Similar to when I'm sharing with you out of mixing, if you find one thing that perhaps helps you think from a different perspective, writing it down and then doing your own research is very, very crucial in getting better in what you do. I've learned so much just from sharing with you different ideas, and mixing's helped me get a lot better at sharing with you my ideas about mixing and sharing you my perspective on things and my mixing in general. And it just comes from a base of always being willing to learn. I don't consider myself good, bad, or whatever. I consider myself a person who's progressing and moving forward with the style of mixing that I do. I've mentioned this in a small stimulus that we just did for week 12. And you know, I play the guitar the way I choose to play it, and I've developed a particular, way I like to perform it and play. But that particular style or that particular space that I like to play might not be your space. And you need to just maybe take some ideas from the way I play, take some ideas on another person, etc., and then formulate your own way of playing. I prefer personally dirtier sounds. I prefer a little more distortion, a little more rock and roll. But you might prefer a cleaner sound, more, say, tone-wise, more Steve Vai, melodic, more maybe Petrucci, or the polyphonic, cleaner, sound. So it's really dependent on the style of your performing, right? You get to a point where it's not just about improving, but it's about playing the instrument the way you play it and improving upon that, presenting your own style. I think that's sort of, if anything, that's what I share with you in my mixing and in the performing and the acoustics is, my own way of performing them. And what I'm trying to share with you is how we're getting better at performing it the way I like to perform it, and the challenges that I'm having, preparing it, etc. Yes, it's an element of getting it in the key and performing it right vocally, etc. But at the same time, it's sharing with you my perspective of the piece and sharing a different direction on which I want to share it. Yeah, but it doesn't come from a point of look at me and look at everything I can do, and because it's very difficult. I don't have time for that. I don't have time for that nonsense. It's very, very difficult. As I just mentioned, I'm strong with my own, I'm fighting my own demons here. I don't have time for arrogance and that person's this, that person's that, and this blah blah blah. I don't have time for that crap. I have time for sharing with you positivity, sharing with you a love of music, and wanting to help you improve upon what you're doing. And if I can share with you one thing that helps you, have a different perspective on things, then that gives me great joy and motivation to keep progressing forward. I think that is enough. There's enough crap out there that's trying to make us hate each other and trying to make us scared and all this other stuff. And we need to and instead of our own selves, hating each other and trying to put us down, we really need to be we need to change our perspective, and be more supportive of the work each of us put in. And if you really feel strongly about a particular aspect, I think that's really good. But only if you put it in the right direction. If you put it towards, if you, for example, don't like, like the space that EDM is going in or something like that, then, take that drive and create music. That's what gave me, when I started, a great drive, because I didn't really like the space that we were going in, and I want to share with you my direction, my own space, my own vision of electronic music and everything, encapsulating the love I have for music. What the fuck? But it really comes from a place where I didn't really like where things were going, right? And instead of me spending hours upon hours and days or whatever, months and years, putting out hate there and just putting other people down, you do something positive, do something valuable to yourself. And if you have an idea of what the kind of music that you think should be out there, then awesome. Find the tutorials, find the whatever the resource that you need, and start creating that music. And then you'll find that you'll be able to create your own space for that music. Sure, you have your own struggles and your own demons, but if you're open, to it, you'll be able to grab a great amount of knowledge from a lot of people out there that are on chapter 30, 40. And when you're starting on chapter 1, you just have to have patience for it. Yeah, I think that's a much healthier frame of mind to be in, and it will contribute a lot more to society and to the world, more so than what we have today. I'm not sure what we have today. I think it's just a bit much. Yeah. I hope they can see, how much this actually takes to do what you love, and how much time is wasted just on nonsense. So if you love something, you really just don't have time to waste. And I think if you look at it from a perspective and you ask yourself, what am I absorbing information from? And what have I done productively that I can improve my life on? What information am I absorbing right now that's in my life, and is that helping me, or is it just nonsense? And I think about it all the time when I go to the gym. I see all the screens and everything, and I think about what have I just been absorbing? Is this information going to help me at all? It's just random crap that has no just I don't want to know about it, because there's nothing I can do. It's just massive players in the game and much more powerful people than me, and it's like, what the hell am I gonna do? I got enough issues. I've got enough things I need to figure out. Yeah. Yeah. I know this is sort of, these always turned into a bit of a sort of, scrambled egg. Yeah. But that's sort of, that makes sense. Those are sort of things I just sort of been struggling with, and I guess that bother me. I really feel that we have a lot of people out there that can contribute a great deal, and we have a lot of great people out there, but we just need to be a little more supportive and a little more a little more encouragement. I think that we've got ourselves in a lot of cases by our own choices into a space we don't want to be in, and we have a lot of negativity towards that, and then that only creates more negativity and hatred, and we don't want that. We don't need that. And I think the worst thing that we can do is as a society, as people, is start bullying each other more, because we're being bullied enough by everything else, and we don't need to start bullying each other, because a common person, there's only so much they can do compared to the big players that are sort of running the world and running things. There's only so much that they can do. Not to mention that we have the aspect of being easily influenced by things. A lot of people perhaps haven't been through a great amount of struggle, difficulty in life, and they're easily manipulated. Easy to be shaped and molded into believing certain ideas. So we're dealing with all sorts of people, dealing with X, Y, Z, Z, all shapes and sizes, dealing with you're being brought up in certain environments, being brought up in with parents or no parents, with a father with no mother, with no father. You're dealing with people who have 8, 9 brothers and sisters, and might feel neglected, or didn't really give them enough attention. You're dealing with so many different aspects and perspectives and ideas, that it can become a bit of a chaotic soup, So we need to really just, step back and realize that, that's okay, but really, really need to start, caring about each other a lot more. And I think that, when I think about things, I feel that, this Project Viminacium is really about that. I was trying to figure out, as the weeks have gone and we talked about last week, what's really been my motivation for this project. And I think it really comes down to is that love. Is to sharing with you something that's never been seen before, never been done before. But it really comes down to, I think the greatest measure that I want to share in this project is to care about each other a lot more, to show a greater love for each other. And to share that through a love of music, to show that, perhaps, there's a different perspective on things, that we've perhaps gone down the wrong road on things, and to share with you, pieces that are very famous, but, that I've taken different direction on them, to offer different perspective, different light on things. And I hope that, when I put everything together just as a great movie, then when people watch the show and then they watch the performance, that we can then when it's finished, that people can come away from it from a different perspective, from a perspective of caring for each other more and showing great love, for humanity. Right? Because I really feel that we need a lot more of that. And, to inspire people to, go out there and to be, really comes down from the aspect of, I really want to be able to play guitar like that, or I really want to be able to mix like that, or, that's really cool. What direction can I take that in, right? I'm really inspired by, this aspect. Let me try that. I really love the way he sings. The fact that he's been able to, put it all together. I really need to, go out there and make this work, right? If he can, dedicate his life to doing this and to all obstacles, and I hope that, through these, episodes and through the practice takes, it really gives you a great inspiration to go out there and try things out. Because honestly, it's that sort of, it's that, cool, I'm just double checking. It really is that aspect of, it's very cliche, but, life really is too short. And you only have maybe, a few good decades in you to really do something, outside of high school and in uni, and, say you go to uni, right? And after that, you only have, a few good decades to really do something. That's nothing. That's nothing, particularly if you want to be world class in something. You need to get going now. So, ignore everything that's happening. There's nothing we can do. The only thing we can do is concentrate on ourselves and march forward and be willing to get better at whatever we're doing, and just share a little more compassion for each other. Yeah, and I think that the space that music and stuff is in, it's lacking. It's lacking that it's become very much about me, and money, and I watch a lot of shows, and it's really bad, frankly. I don't think it's good. But again, it's my perspective. I'm doing something about it. I'm not online, this is shit, and etc. It's a waste of time. I got too many things on to do, and I'd rather get better and make it better, and share with you a different perspective on things. Again, it's my perspective, that I'm sharing with you. And when I'm judging something, I always do my best not to judge something. But frankly, when things get really bad, or they just it's too much, I'm like, all right, like, okay, all right, it's time for something else. Yeah, but I think that, I'm a big fan of, as many people are, of Michael Jordan and stuff like that. And I think that a big reason behind me wanting to become a master at all these different disciplines is because of that. And being, when I look at you know golf players, I look at athletes, there's becoming a great basketball player isn't just about shooting the hoop. You need to go to the gym, you need to exercise, you need to work on your dunks, your three-pointers, your movements, and strategy, and your flexibility. It's there's so many different areas, right? If you take tennis, right, it's not just serve, it's about your front of court, back of court, side, left, improving, going to the gym, eating healthier. All this plays a factor in you becoming world class in what you do, and sharing, that. And I think, in music, we just don't have enough of that. We've had a few over the decades, but we need more now. And we need more professionals. We need more people, just like in athletics, that really dedicate themselves to becoming the best that they can be in that particular field. And I think that's a big motivator for me, and and for me, it's to become a great musician. But you need to then, for me, it's not just about one instrument. It's about developing mastery in multiple different areas. Just like your backhand, your forehand, your serve. Each area requires time. Or like as a bodybuilder, you're building up your lats, your biceps, your shoulders, your back. Each area requires time, and I think that as a musician, as an artist, what should be the standard is that, right? So your left hand might be the guitar, your right hand might be this, you might work on your back might be the drums, right? You that's the standard that it needs to be. You might think I'm crazy, but I mean, it's not easy to become a world-class bodybuilder. It's not easy to become a world-class tennis player. There's only very few. There shouldn't be any difference becoming a world-class musician or an artist. I think that doing one element isn't for me. I think becoming world-class in the piano, for example, is an aspect. But I think that as a modern artist, you want to have disciplines in multiple different areas. And sure, your main instrument might be one. Now you pick a main instrument, but then you want to have flexibility and movement in other instrumentation, so you can create better music. You can develop the skills, just as Prince, was able to. Yeah, and I don't think it's this aspect of being born or gifted with, or you're a genius XYZ. It's really just about hard work. And sure, you have talent, but a lot of these guys, if you're a fan of tennis or whatever sport you're in, they're all very talented. But at the end of the day, the people that make it at the top are the ones that have worked the hardest. Very few are there from talent. I would say none of them are there just from raw talent. Yeah, because it can only get you so far. It really is about grit and improving and developing a skill. And you can't be arrogant. You have to constantly be willing to keep improving and having determination into keeping improving. But I think at the same time, you need to also realize that we are human. If you need a break, you need a break, and it's an aspect of refocusing on on that, and then moving forward. But I hope that when I see this project through, it gives a lot of inspiration to you out there to do the same. Like, oh wow, that's really cool. You know, let me try and do that. And then you can spend the years, building up your craft and to do something like that. I think it's a great space to be discovered, and there's a lot of avenues that can be taken, but it requires a lot of work, requires a lot of dedication. It's one thing to play instruments, another thing to get it up to a high level. Just playing a few chords and doodling, anyone can really do that. You can have all this instrumentation and you don't really do much, you just doodle around. But to be able to actually perform proper pieces on the piano and on the guitars and sing vocalizations without the use of heavy processing and all this other stuff really requires time, and a great love for music. But it takes a toll. It takes a toll on you. But I think just those are some things I'm just going to take some time to just refocus and remember why I started, and come back hopefully refreshed, as much as it can be, and refocused on what we need to do, because I find that it's worth it. I feel that it's worth it. It's going to be important to share with you, and if I can impact and positively contribute something to one person from the project, then I would have done something useful. And in 10 years time, someone comes up to me and is like, oh man, because of you, I completely changed my life, and I did this, I did that, and that would mean the world to me. I think that's really what it's about. I could care less about anything else, to be honest. I think that it's about really becoming the best version that you can be, and pushing yourself to constantly get better, and for people to be on that journey with you, and to work on themselves, getting better. But sometimes you just need to take a break, and if you're in that space like I am right now, and you feel quite unfocused, and you just need to take a second to realign why you started and what you need to do, then do it. I think it will help just to refocus and taking some time away from things to just get a different perspective on things, away from the phone, away from everything else that's happening, and just figure out okay, what exactly is it that I want, right, outside of everything else. So what is it that I want to do, and really focus in that, because there's a lot of noise. There's a lot of fucking noise. I hope that gives you better insight into sort of my thought process and how we're sort of progressing with everything. I think it's just been sort of I've forgotten why we started, and I guess as I'm sort of doing takeover after takeover, it just gets a bit like just give it a rest, but it's worth it, I have to say. When I get a good take, I'm like, oh man, nice work. That's really good. But again, it's just requires a lot of dedication to be able to get a good practice take before we get into rehearsals. But we're very, very close. It's just about getting there safely, because honestly, I feel like I'm going a bit crazy. Or I think I am going a bit crazy. I'm going a bit bonkers, because it's so difficult, and it's something that I've just never ever done before. I'm pushing into space I've just never been before. I guess you have to be someone you've never been before. Yeah, but we'll find a way. I'll always find a way, and I'll find a way to keep marching forward. Because again, I feel that it's important. I feel it's important to share with you this idea, this creation of the project, and I feel that it's something bigger than myself. And I feel that it will connect, a lot of people together for a great love of music. Or all sorts of people, not just one particular demographic, but just bring everyone together. Just as I do at festivals, just bring everyone together. It doesn't matter the age, anyone, from young until mature, whatever. Just bring everyone together. Just like Michael Jackson did. Just bring everyone together, man. Just to show a great love of what is music. And I've noticed that with as people, these great artists, when they pass, they really leave a hole. Just like I feel that Avicii really has left a big hole in EDM, and it's never really been filled. Other people have sort of come, and I feel that it's a big hole. It's a big hole, and he's really been someone that's fought like crazy to push it in a new space, but it was too overwhelming. And I think when he passed away, he's left a big hole, and it's never really been filled. I think that would also with Elvis as well, with Michael Jackson, with Nirvana, with Kurt Cobain, and those massive artists that really impact us. They leave a huge hole that rarely gets filled again, and then we take a different direction of music, and music's now in a weird, I don't know, it's in a weird fucking space. It's in a weird space, but there's a lot of holes. Yeah. If I can contribute to pushing it in a better direction, if even by 1%, I would have done something, I guess, useful. I remember last year a couple times the Quincy Jones documentary, and he says at one point, it's like, oh, music needs saving, and he's like, yeah, well, it really does. It does. And I agree with him. Yeah, it really does need saving, but I don't think I'm its savior. That's just way too egotistical. If I can contribute, something positive to 1% moving in a better direction, then awesome. But I don't think. I don't think we need saviors. I think we need more artists that are willing to just be authentic in that space, in their own space. And what I'm noticing is not, I guess, a saving of music, but just sort of let that side just do what it does and let it sort of just implode its own self. And what I'm noticing is we're just developing great communities and great spaces for music, and each individual sharing their own space and perspective on things. And I think that what I'm noticing is, we have, other great South African movement happening. There's a hardstyle movement. There's a indie movement, particularly in Australia, and the rock indie happening, psychedelic rock. There's been a bigger push through Parkway Drive. I think that's what they're called. Yeah, through the metal festivals, right? Metallica's still rocking, kicking ass. New cats are coming along. Not maybe as influential, as Metallica. It's gonna take a big band to really live up to that space. Megadeth's still kicking ass. And it's all just happening all at once, right? I don't see one area as we did in the past, like taking over like rock music and hip hop, but I find that it's spread out into multiple different areas, and everything's just going at full blast, which is amazing. I think that's the first time it's really been happening. I think I've noticed that with when dubstep was coming, right? So progressive house, and you had that that movement, but then also dubstep. Skrillex was having his own space and movement, and if you weren't really aware of it, you would have never even noticed it. They were both happening at the same time and both exploding at the same time, which is phenomenal. And I think that what I'm seeing is that's really branched out now, and you have everything just just exploding in its own space. And it really comes down to artists being authentic in that space. I don't think it's necessary to just make music in one area. I think you can be fluid in multiple different areas. I don't think you have to lock yourself into one particular genre. Because I wouldn't necessarily call yourself an artist. I would just call yourself, a producer in that space. If you stick to one particular style. But I do like the variation. I do like the expansion of different genres, right? And I do like when I talk with people that people listen to everything now, which is amazing. I love that. When I talk with people, it's never like, oh, I listen to everything, And the more and more people I talk with, it's like, oh, I create a bit of everything. And I think that's fantastic. I think honestly that's how it should be. Should just create what you feel. Shouldn't be like, I work in this specific genre. It's just like, ugh. Just put it out and just create music that you feel, that you soul, and follow that muse. And what you create is what you create. And if someone wants to label that XYZ, then fine, go for it. But you're creating art, you're creating music, you're not creating a product that's labeled in, this, and it's 3.5 minutes with, a 16-bar chorus, and 8-bar verse and whatever, 16-bar verse, 32-bar chorus. And it finishes in 3.5 minutes on the dot. Yeah. I think that we're seeing a new age of music, and it's might be scary for some, but I think it's phenomenal. I think it's amazing. I think it's the fact that an independent artist can make a great living and have a great success on their own, without anyone even knowing who they are. That's fucking incredible. It's amazing. Yeah. But look, that's sort of where we're at with things. I just gonna take some time to refocus, and just step away from things a little bit, and then see sort of where we go with it. Wrap up this week 12. Continue focusing on the rehearsals, and just keep marching forward. But I think for me to see this project first, this rehearsal, and then the second one, because we have a double, we have 2 albums, a rehearsal, we're doing a bunch of stuff. It's just a bit fuck. I put a lot on my plate, but that's all right. It is what it is. All right, gang. Thank you so much for joining me, for checking this out. I know we've sort of gone a bit of a tangent here and there and all this other stuff. Look, some of the stuff you might not agree with, and that's fine. Some of the stuff you might agree with, you might feel strongly about certain things, and that's fine. Just please try and take away one positive thing from this that you can contribute to your life. I'm sure you have a million things fucking going on. You're busy as hell, and it's already as rough as it needs to be, right? You don't need to make it harder on yourself. This whole notion of hard for the sake of hard, being hard, and coming from someone who's lived in that for over a decade now, just like working like crazy. Sure, you need to establish it and show people that it doesn't come off the cuff. But I think look, from my perspective, I've demonstrated that with you, and I really need to start taking better care of myself. And my health is so much more important to me, and I really need to change my perspective on things. Suffering just to sort of I don't know, show you that, like, oh, look, I'm suffering, and I don't think it's, and this whole work hard grind, and it's a bit outdated, I have to say. Sure, that's a great element of it, is grinding and working hard and everything, but I think also we really need to take care of ourselves. And if you're in the point like I am right now, when you really need a break, you need a fucking break. Outside of what everyone else is doing, and CEOs working 16, blah, 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 blah. If you feel that you need a break from everything, and you might be a little more sensitive to things, like a little more emotional, then just, take a break and refocus, realign, and come back. And I think the most important thing you can take away from this is just, start taking better care of yourself, more so than anything else. We'll get this project done, we'll see it through, but I want to get there safely, and I want to land there safely without turning absolutely fucking crazy and, completely just, just flipping it. I don't want that, right? And I feel that, if I don't take a break, I'm gonna fucking flip. So we just need to get away from things a little bit, refocus, realign, and then come back stronger. Okay. All right. Thank you so much for joining me for a brand new episode of Confessions of an Artist. I will see you in week. So this is week 13. I'll see you. So not week 12, but we're wrapping up week 12. Now we're pushing into week 30. That's right. And then I'll see you in week 40. That's the one. Okay. I will see you then. Please enjoy the new season of the art of mixing. I put a lot of love and hard work and dedication into it. So hope that you find something that can help you in your mixing journey. All right. Much love to you all. Thanks so much for joining me. Hopefully, might record this with you in week 40, and I'll be in a much better state and perspective on things. We'll see how we go. All right. Until then, keep doing what you're doing. Keep pushing forward. Just be mindful, and if you need to take a break, just take a break. Particularly now with the a couple longer days of the King's birthday that we're having. If you're in this position and you're able to take some days off, take some time off and just have some time for yourself. I'm sure you're working like crazy and then working as high as you are. But make sure you just take some time for yourself. It's all very, very important. All right. See you later.